Joe. Hey, Rich.
I don't know if you saw, but I made the TD Foundation the sponsor of the show.
I did see that at the little logo up
It was
there.
I probably could have done a better logo, a better version of it, but it kind of blended in the background. It was almost camouflage. But you were the honorary sponsor of the show today.
Hey, Joey.
Well, shall I be the first to say great show?
You can be if you want.
Great show. Hey, Tom.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being here, man. If I can just say something to start off with, I spent 15 years trying to figure out the wisdom behind the old saying, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. A thing I had heard 100 times growing up. Everybody said to do it, but nobody said how. So behind this silly little saying, this cute little metaphor, lies all this deep wisdom. And to hear your story was to hear some of that wisdom. I've heard a dozen people say getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to me, but you're the first I've ever heard say getting shot was the best thing that ever happened.
Well, he was fired at. He wasn't fired.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
No, that's like, but I think Mike Bloomberg wins the "So Glad I Got Fired" contest, right?
And Steve Jobs too. He said it was the best thing that ever happened to him. He spent 6 weeks in bed. He was so depressed, but it ended up revolutionizing his life and all that. I've heard the story from so many people, and Joseph wouldn't like it if I didn't hold up my book, Plato's Lemonade Stand, Stirring Change into Something Great. It's all about that old saying. And I've talked to people who were paraplegic. A great British athlete who was rendered paraplegic in an auto accident. And he said to me once, if I had to go back and could choose to have the accident or not, I'd choose to have it again.
Wow.
And I said, why? He was a Oxford trained philosopher and a championship athlete and a mountain climber and everything. And he said, the depth of the spiritual insight it has given me is priceless. It's a treasure I would never give up. And he said, I was living superficially before my accident. I'm living deeply now. And the conversation I had with him, he could barely speak. A sentence would take minutes. And I just thought, wow, that's a humbling thing to hear, you know? So yeah, the worst things in our lives can open the doors to the best things in sometimes really, really surprising ways. So thank you for telling that story.
Yeah, I think that, again, people talk a lot about purpose, right? But it's like for me, it's also just that, like I say, it's that introspective, like, what are my values? And,
yeah.
Now that I'm over 50, it's like, what's my legacy? But like, my legacy is my kids. And it's like, what are the values that I can give them?
Yeah.
But also, that purpose of helping others.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I was helpful, but I didn't necessarily think that helping others was part of my purpose in this world. And now I recognize that it is.
So Tom, you're over 50? Wow. I mean, you look like 30. I mean, just so young and vital, Tom. I mean,
I think, could it be the hair though?
Yes, it is, Tom. It is the hair. You guys are seeing it at week like 5 or 6, which is very natural looking. But when I step out of that hair studio, it's darker than Joe's. It's not a color that occurs naturally
I'm going for the full David Letterman white beard, baby. I'm going opposite, baby.
No, but look at that beard. It's like it's a salt and pepper. If I was salt and pepper, I'd be okay. And again, there's a little bit of vanity in there, but it's great.
You always were the best dressed net gravity salesperson. So I think you come by your vanity.
Suit and tie, baby.
Joey got a little mention today. Joey,
jeans and flip flops. I was suit and tie, baby.
Dude, no, Joe Jaffe, it's true. I was the first customer, one of the first customers. Those guys, I had sales guys coming in Hawaiian shirts. Deierlein would show up with a suit and tie, and I just feel like, because unfortunately I was CNN.com, I had to have a suit and tie on. So I was like, oh, he looks like me. I like Deierlein. I mean, it was crazy. Early days of the internet, dude.
Yeah, like when I first started working for Nick was like, oh, you don't have to wear a suit and tie. I'm like, dude, Trust me, you want me in a suit and tie. It says it sends a message to people in the room that we're serious, that we're established. And one of the first meetings he and I went on together was with Glasgow at iVillage to get a renewal.
That's funny.
Buy like 20 more ad indices. And Glasgow was it, like there were two people in a suit in that room. It was me and Glasgow, and the two of us are battling it out. You know, he was trying to get free ad indices. You know, it was just, and it was funny. And I was like, John, take a look at my card again. I don't know if you saw it. I'm not the vice president of free. I'm the vice president of sales.
That's good. I like that.
That's a great line. I love that one. I might have interacted with a few salespeople on my agency days where they should have said that to me.
Dude, that was Deierlein's big line. He used that forever.
How many what color, baby? How many what color?
Funny.
So Joey Dumont, a little cameo there on the show at Cafe du. What do they call that? Cafe Dumont. I should maybe.
Yes. They named it
Dumont.
after me. But that was he was 2 hurricanes in when you came in, Tom, and then you bought him another one, and then we kind of helped Joe to the next bar, to where we watched really bad jazz, which was very hard to find.
I couldn't remember if that was the first or the second night because I ended up hanging out in the corner with Walt.
Yeah.
You're talking about the live piano?
Yeah.
The dueling was that the dueling pianos.
Yeah. It was, and he was. I've never seen Jaffe that altered, because I've seen him. I mean, iMedia's eye was usually the one that was severely altered. But
I think I was fine that night.
You were fine. You didn't say or do anything, but you were so happy.
I tell you who was, well, I can't say because I'm recording this. There a few people were, but you know, by the way, the beauty of this gathering is we were all doing this back in 2001, and here we are like 20 years later, and we're just not as young as we were then, quite literally. And so there's a certain physiological differences and changes, and I think part of the goal in Nolan's for me was to prove that I still had it, and the headache the next day probably suggested I don't still have it.
You were not feeling well the next day. That much I remember.
But I mean, it was one of the few times we were together in the flesh before all the craziness happened.
There are stages of life that just let you be stupid boundlessly, you know, and you rebound. And then there are stages of life where you have to get some wisdom.
But you think about it, like, I remember when I was growing up, my dad's like, you're like, oh, I'll be home at whatever. He's like, nothing good happens after midnight, son. Get in bed by midnight. Nothing good happens after midnight. But iMedia, I did most of my best business between midnight and 2, right? Like those.
Yes,
that's where you connected with people.
Really?
You know.
Oh yeah, that was the Fire Pit IO signature.
Now between 2 and 5, it's a very different.
Well, yeah, that was the.
But
that
imagine
was the
if people had
manage.
had iPhones back then, we'd all be in jail.
We would have. We had those terrible tack phones. The Nokia with all the buttons on the bottom.
Blackberries. Hi everyone.
Blackberries. Yeah,
and Blackberries too. We did have Blackberries too.
Hey, Carol.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe.
Oh my goodness. That, I mean, true words have never been spoken. If iPhones existed back in the day.
No, I'd be unhireable.
I would be unemployable forever.
Yeah.
No, you know what would happen?
Tom, you should run for office. I'm like, I have a house full of, forget about a closet. I've got a house full of skeletons. I spent 2 nights in jail. You think that somebody wants to back me as a candidate for anything?
You see, I disagree about landing in jail. I just think a lot more business would have closed quicker because of all the blackmail. So I think, I think it would have been much more efficient. It would have been a frictionless event with the videotape. Let's go to the videotape, and we got another close.
You're like, but no, it's like, you know, we've all poured or been poured somebody into their room, or you've been poured into your room, and then the next morning. And they go, forgotten. That's it. You go.
Well, that's where Jeannie. That's where Jeannie's.
That's all that's ever said. Not even a thank you. Just a
Yeah.
You know, because it could be me tonight. It could be me tonight.
Well, then you had Jeannie Carlson waking you up. Do you remember? Did you ever get Jeannie's call?
You know, you guys, you're disillusioning me. I've always thought of this crew as such upstanding citizens.
Dude, Tom Morris. The first rule in Cannes at 2 a.m. is keep your eyes out for a friend who's in the gutter, and you pick them up, and you just say to them, right, you know, are you at the Carlton? Are you on a yacht? Where can I get you? And you just, you can't say the names, but you just kind of guide them to safety.
That's funny. The buddy system, right?
Oh man.
No man left behind.
I've walked into more CEOs upside down on the streets of Cannes that you're like, oops.
No, that's like Army Navy. Like, it doesn't matter whether it was a squid or a cadet or an underclassman or an upperclassman. If you saw them and you just got them to safety and away from the MPs.
Get them to safety, baby. That's all it is.
From the MPs, yeah.
That's
like, you know, you're like, beat Navy, those stupid squids. But if you saw one getting in trouble and the MPs are like, he's with me. And they're like, are you sure? You're like, yeah, come on, John, Joe, Bill, come on.
Well, they used to.
Don't let them end up with the MPs.
Right. It's not anything original, but at Turner and at MTV, which was before internet days, was pretty hard partying sales teams. It was, you know what, when we go on the sales meetings, you'd be up till 3 a.m. and the head of sales always used to say, hoot with the Owls, you got to soar with the Eagles. If you're not there at 8 a.m., you're done. So you could go have fun, but you had to show up no matter how bad you were feeling. Yep. 8 a.m., you had to be there. John Popkowski or the guys running sales would just fire your ass on the spot.
That's what I hated about.
You could leave your brain in bed. You just had to show up.
Just had to be there.
I had you guys like you in my 8 a.m. audiences. That's why I hated 8 a.m. speeches, because everybody had been out to the bar till 4 a.m. and then they were in the Coliseum with me or the ballroom at 8 a.m. and it was just like zombie time. Everybody
never do an 8. Why would you ever do an 8 a.m.?
That's not a bad spot because people got some coffee in them or they're still a little drunk from last night. Like, I think the rougher spot is like the 10:30, 11.
11
maybe
o'clock
because, right, there's this plummeting.
So I like my favorite. I like opening a conference or I like closing a conference.
Well, of course.
But sometimes that or even in the middle, you know, just the final presentation of the day, because people are tired. People are a little bit kind of, you know, like under the weather at that point, and you have an opportunity just to like end on a high. But for me, the worst one is just after lunch.
Okay, so let's all agree that the worst speaking spot in the entire industry is on the 3rd day of the IAB when it's a half day at 11 o'clock. And everybody's already left for their plane.
No one there.
And that poor person is up there, and there's Randall Rothenberg saying, yeah, and there's nobody in the audience. And he's worked for months on that speech, and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
Just the way.
That's tough.
Yeah.
But if you look at, one of my favorite movies of all time is The Great Escape. And,
of course it is.
And in the final scene, for those guys that didn't make it to the train, and and they're zooming down the platform, and there's the different, hiding under the, and it's just the straggle and the stress, and they're worn out. And I always think about, when you're leaving an iMedia or an IAB event, and you start walking towards your gate, and you see all these people with the glasses, and they're laid out across 3. And I always think of the
everybody's on the same plane.
I don't know what because everyone just looks worn out, tired. They don't want to talk to anyone. They don't want to be see or be seen. So that's the end of every iMedia to me is a flashback to The Great Escape.
Now, the worst part is being the client and watching all the salespeople in first class as you're trying to make your way to the back of the plane.
That's funny.
You guys all had the miles.
Yeah. Right.
That's so funny. And then I wanted and then the salespeople are probably just pretending they're sleeping. They're like, here comes the client.
Yep.
The flights to iMedia and the IAB are like cocktail parties. People are walking through the plane. The flight attendants hate you. Everyone's saying hi. The flight home, you're just out cold with an eye shade on. You're like, you're just dead.
It's
the best.
It's so funny if you just think about, I mean, the world then, right? And we all came together, those first conferences just post 9/11. And we think about the world now. We spoke about the advent of phones. We spoke, we now live in a very different time with respect to the things that might have been considered to be possible then versus now. It's just a different world. It's a different world. I mean, I don't even know if it's possible to recreate that magic.
So let me ask you a question, Joe. For the people in the media on the call, anybody going to spend the $497 and buy a ticket for CES virtually?
No way.
No, it's like they keep pushing me, and I'm like,
no way.
What? Why am I doing this? They're like, it'll be easy to set up meetings. I'm like, no, it's not. Yeah, these virtual things. I don't know, Jaffe, because it is such a big part of the economy. It is such a big part for so many companies, but I don't know how you recreate these things. I kind of wish.
Richie, how much is a ticket normally?
Well, I wouldn't buy a ticket normally. I'd buy a flight to Las Vegas. I'd get a hotel room, and I never went on the floor. And if somebody invited me to like Irwin's tour, I'd get a badge for the day.
Right. But, and a lot of people, and a lot of people would do that at South by too. They would never actually go to
the meetings at CES is walking through the Aria and the Cosmo and the other one, and going to the media link party and going to the other stuff.
I get that, but since you can't do that, let's say you went to South by or CES and you were there, and for whatever weird reason, you could only meet everybody at the conference. What was the cost of a ticket?
I don't know. The plane tickets were always about $1,500 for coach, because the airlines all knew that they were.
No, the event ticket.
Oh, the event ticket? I don't remember. What was a CES ticket? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I thought the floor ticket was like $500-600, around the same thing as my.
So that's what I don't get. If you have $500 or $1,000 for an event like CES or South by, and then you're going all virtual, which is global, why didn't you make it $50?
Yeah, right.
I hear you. If they were going to charge me $100 for the ticket, sure, I'd do it. $500, I'm like, why am I doing this for $500?
I just don't get the math. I don't know why they're doing.
Well, there was an article about it yesterday, Jan, that talks about the 7 figures that it costs to even put on a virtual event, supposedly.
Yeah.
So they needed to get more than $100 or $50 a pop. And to Richie's point, I mean, I would pay because I was an agency guy, but all my deals were done at the after party and the media link. The media link party was the party, and that's where everyone was. And if you weren't there, you weren't getting deals. And so you had to be there physically. And the same thing with South by. iMedia and those types of events were very different. That was, they were intimate. There were 400 people. What a CES has 100,000, something like that.
They're trying to sell 150,000 tickets at $500 a piece or more, and exhibitors are $1,200. All this other stuff. I mean, look, iMedia sometimes was 100 people. Right? There were smaller ones. It was just, and it wasn't a conference where you were on the floor. It was everybody getting together and sharing ideas.
That's what CES was too for you and many people, right? So that's what you're paying for. You're getting zero of that.
Yeah.
But look at the ANA. I mean, the Masters of Marketing that I was a part of this year, like tying in with interviews, I think they chopped the price down to, what was it, $295 or $395, and you had access to 25 keynotes from these CMOs. So they delivered the content second to none at a fraction of the price. There was a little bit of networking, like maybe some ability to set up Zooms or some kind of functionality, but at least they dropped the price. But we all know this, that the value in all of these events is in the relationships and the networking. And it's just as simple as that. And that's why post-COVID, as a speaker myself, I want nothing more than to be able to get into a studio, pre-record my keynote, and I want to show up at the event. In fact, what I'd like to do is, instead of delivering the presentation that they all watched on their laptops on the plane, I'll just go to straight to Q&A and give them an opportunity to actually have a meaningful conversation or dialogue with myself. And then afterwards, we can still go out and have the 4 hurricanes with TD.
So I think the ANA did a good job. I think they did. It was all quality people with keynotes, and then they shared the materials. I think that's a really key thing, Jaffe. I will tell you though that their attempt at networking was horrible. You couldn't get a meeting with anybody. So, it's that balance, Jaffe, of is it what Joey and Tom and Carol and I are talking about, of being able to run into somebody and say, hey, I've been looking for you, blah, blah, blah. Everyone jokes about Cannes and CES. It's all the same people from New York or wherever you are. That's true, but you're out of the office setting. Your barriers are down. You're open for things. And I think it's more conducive to just getting deals done.
Better networking.
Or started, right?
Better networking on Corona TV, right, Mr. Glassberg?
Oh, absolutely.
Here we go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like this is the and the alleged. We hear rumors about a gala after party tonight.
Yep. Which we need to have.
Well, we are
because
having.
the gala is more like a show. You're going to hear content, and we're going to keep it moving. But like, people want to see people.
There may or may not be an after party hosted by Corona TV. But we just hear rumors, though, right, Tom?
No, I've published it. I've told people that everyone knows it's coming. So but I don't want to send out the link now because then the people are going to get confused.
All I'm going to do is where
the hell is everybody?
I'm going to make Richie Glassberg the host and like basically just hang out in one of the rooms.
No.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. There were, I'm going to go back and kind of synthesize some of this stuff, but it worked out, you talk about things happening for a reason. Today on the show, big time, profoundly, philosophically, Tom is the shining light. Last night, George Tannenbaum, who was meant to be my guest today, sends me an email. It's like literally 1 minute before I'm sitting down to have dinner with my family going, so sorry, don't kill me, but client call, and I got to take it. And so I reached out to Tom. I'm like, that thing about the thing before the thing, what are you doing tomorrow? And isn't it great
well, that's funny because I was like, what is he, insane? Like, there's not, and I was like, oh, actually I am available. I was like, Mom, turns out I am around.
And that's how much turnaround time you need to put together a crap show like I just put together.
It was a great show. Nobody could tell it was last minute.
Dude, you put together a really good show, Jaffe.
So do you live a charmed life, Joseph Jaffe? And the big question then is why? I mean, because you've had such great things happen ever since you started this show. I mean, I just love being a bystander to see all the pixie dust that falls on you every day. There hasn't been any
work involved at all, has there, Joe?
Yeah, it's just like, it's the easiest thing in the world. Like leaning against the American flag and things happen, and
we didn't. The funny thing about the show is just to share something with you is there were things that even Tom was going to talk about, solar winds and fire eyes, which I'd never even heard. That's probably like his password for his bank account or something. Like I've never even heard of these things. And then I found out another thing.
Password.
Yeah, and I just want to read this to you. I didn't even get to this. March 18th. So this is even before my first interview with my sister. So that this is about a week into quarantine for me. Not even a week, maybe 4 days. Tom sends me a private message, and I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to read to you the slightly abridged one, but someone's coming in. And this is what Tom says to me. He says, I found your post this morning divisive and nasty. Clear you were anxious and frustrated by your upcoming test. That was my COVID test. Hope you're okay. You are a brilliant man and writer. Perhaps you can focus on education, inspiration, and useful content during this turbulent time. Rants about the president are not useful, and your comments go into an echo chamber. Perhaps a negative test will improve your mood. I'm here if you need to talk, brother. I think it might be safe to say that, Tom, I owe you everything based on a show that's about hope, positivity, and optimism, because this show is going to be about vitriol, negativity, criticism, and trolling. So, maybe I have you to thank. I appreciated that note to me because I knew you cared.
Yeah, I think that, I had another friend of mine actually that I served with, and I saw a post and I saw another post, over the course of a few weeks. And then I went to his string and it was just filled with negativity about different rants. And I called him up. I said, man, are you okay? Facebook's odd, social media's odd. I think we all know that. But I think that when you see people, some of it, you're just like, hey, you're all right.
But you just basically reached out and you said, "Are you okay?" And look who just arrived, Mr. Adam Lefton.
Look,
Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm late.
No worries. Look at the op-ed that Meghan Markle wrote after losing her baby, and she basically said, "Just ask people, are you okay?" And it was that reporter who looked at her and said, and it was a male, which is surprising, because males are not the most empathetic in the world. It wasn't a female reporter, and said, "Are you okay?" And she stopped for a second and she ended up writing that piece. And I think in times of great stress, and the truth is we're all facing great stress, what you did, Tom, with your friend and seeing the string, and social media is a whole nother conversation, is just reaching out to friends and saying, "Are you okay?" And I think it's really important now more than ever. I'm really concerned not only about the 300,000 people who've died. I think the mental health after effects of this pandemic are going to be incredibly deep and widespread for children, for middle schoolers, for college kids, and for old dogs like us. I think this is something that is, for the first time in a long time, we could actually use the word unprecedented, because we haven't had it happen in 100 years. But I think the effects of this are going to be really tough on society, and we have to start thinking about mental health.
Yeah.
It's funny. You get the vaccine and you think, oh, great, the next day. It's going to take 6 months to roll it out.
Yeah.
Nope. And by the way, the vaccine, you got to wait 3 weeks. Have the second shot, you got to wait a week. People don't realize it's 4 weeks with these double shot vaccines before you're covered.
And that's when we get it, which is April.
Right. And they also don't know, even if you can't get it, if you can be a carrier, because the study didn't look at that. So people still have to wear masks. People still have to social distance.
And also,
this is not ending tomorrow.
I think I learned yesterday that the Pfizer shot, the only guarantees about the Pfizer shot, the 95% effectiveness, is to keep you from dying with symptoms that severe. It doesn't keep you from getting it. It just keeps you from dying. And
it had low. It had low severe symptom rates, not just death.
Yeah, low severe symptom rate, right. So it minimizes your symptoms rather than prevents your getting it. And that only came out with the FDA discussions the other day. Well, there was
I keep reading. I don't think that's accurate.
Well, it was either a New York Times.
I got to run. I've been doing this for 2 hours. I got to run. I got to take care of this gala.
Good luck tonight.
Do my work.
We'll see you tonight.
Have a great one.
See you tonight, Tom.
Tom, 30 minutes is our limit. I'll see you tonight. And thanks. Is he gone? He's still there.
Yeah.
I'll see you tonight. Let me know if you need anything else.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks.
That was great for him to fill in at the last minute and do such a great job today. That was a great choice, Joseph.
Appropriately so. So I will see some of you tonight, and then I don't even know what it is to host an after party. I'm not really hosting. I'm just basically this will be my test to see whether I can manage breakout rooms.
Oh my God! Good luck with that.
That's pretty much all I got to do tonight. I'm hosting it on my. It's so weird. It's like I'm the host, but it's just I just set up a Zoom meeting, and then I've got to figure out how to put people into rooms. But the best part of the new Zoom functionality is that you can actually now go from room to room, and you don't have to be put into the room. So you can see who's in a room and you can move around, and it's kind of like networking in a sense, where you can see who's hanging out and choose to go and be a part of a conversation with them.
You think? Did you send out a link for this, for the after?
Yeah, he's gonna do that. I can tell you what.
He doesn't want to do it beforehand because he don't want to confuse people.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
But I can tell you what it is, Joey.
Yeah.
You want to know what it is? Well, I actually created a bit.ly for it. So it's bits.ly/. TD after party.
Okay.
And then, you know, he'll give out the meeting ID and the passcode and everything. So
Do you guys get a sense that Zoom is going to be as popular or even growing, especially among business? That's where the big money is, as opposed to, you know, the other players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're ahead of the game. You know, they're innovating. They're ahead of the game. They're cheap. They're good.
Secure is a big thing.
Secure.
You know,
They had some problems early on and have apparently dealt pretty well with those.
yeah, I mean, you know, like always, it's really, you can't really, you know, Skype, Cisco, WebEx, GoToMeeting, Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, Amazon's got one called Chime. Good luck, guys. But I mean, Zoom is, you know, I call it, I mean, I wrote about it back in the day. I called it the law of one. I said, one thing I realized back, you know, in the early days, post AOL, Yahoo, I'm talking about like when we started to see a bit of the MySpaces of the world, is that there was, you know, I mean, we were all taught about top of mind positioning, that there was 1, 2, and 3, there was gold, silver, and bronze. But in this, you know, digital world, there's only the one, right? You're either the winner or you're not a player.
I tend to agree, and it's become a habit. But I'll say this: that
it's laziness, I suppose.
Because of Gmail, when I make an invite, the Google Meet is right there. It's as if not more simple than Zoom, and Google Meet is a great experience.
So Jan, have you used the Chrome extension? There's a Zoom Chrome extension, and when you do it's the same thing, and your Zoom comes right up when you start a new.
In fact, yes, I have both Zoom and Google Meet on every invite, and I have a choice to make. So, you know, I have the best. And if I don't know if everybody gets that.
That actually is at the heart of the antitrust stuff, right?
Yes,
that's the heart of it. That Google's using its position in your email to put theirs above, because it's the same on mine. It all looks the same.
Yeah, the young one. My students, I teach graduate school, they all love Google Zoom. Not Zoom.
Google Meet.
Google Meet. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, Google Meet's good. Zoom's good. I think WebEx is the worst thing in the world, and Microsoft Teams is a pain in the ass. And it's like they're all trying to play catch up. But I think, Jan, to your point, you know, with Google announcing yesterday they're not going back in the office till September, and from what I hear from friends, even with people going back into the office sometime next year, they're not going to allow visitors in. So you're not going to be able to see a client, do a client meeting, do a sales call until 2022, I don't think, Jan. So it's all going to be like this in one form or another, I think.
Yeah. I don't think it's going away. And it's even when it goes away, quote unquote, it's the new way of doing business. It's convenient. It's less expensive.
I'm gonna go clean my American flag. Make sure then, you know, if I'm gonna be around here until 2022, I better make sure that the flag is in tip-top shape.
Keep that star for Texas in it for the time being.
For the time being.
Or I could just go like this. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow.